Don't find yourself on thin ice. So today's video, I'm actually standing on ice, and we're going to talk about ice a little bit and some safety about being out on ice. Now, before you actually turn off this video, just hold on one second. If you are an outdoor goer, bushcrafter, survivalist, there is a possibility in colder weather that at some point you're going to have to go out on ice. So don't think I don't ice fish or I don't ice skate or whatever you do on the ice. You're probably going to at some point have to go out there. Or in the absolute worst case scenario, it's an emergency and you realize you have to cross some type of body of water and it's frozen, and what are you going to do? Well, you're going to listen to Dan's tips. I'm going to give you really good tips on dealing with ice and actually traveling on ice. So for our purposes, I'm going to just get this out of the way and then we'll just move on with everything. I highly recommend that you avoid traveling on ice in an emergency or while you are out recreating, if at all possible, just to mitigate that risk and danger. Eastern woodlands, it's pretty easy. Even if it takes an extra 15-20 minutes, you can get around most bodies of water. We're not in an area where we are isolated that we have to travel across water to get from location to location. So just keep that in mind. But when we do go, even if it's only a few feet out on the ice, there is a few things that you should know. So what you're going to do is you're going to make a wooden ice spud. This is literally just a green sapling that I cut. You want it to be longer than yourself if possible. You want it robust enough that you can hold it, and maybe even if you hung it up, you can do some pull-ups on it. This is like your ice safety tool. So here's how you're going to use your spud to start. Initially, as you step onto the ice, you're going to take your spud and you are going to strike the ice. If the spud goes through, not good. Get out of there. And if your spud doesn't go through, okay, and everything seemed all right with the strike, then you can move up to that strike. You could continue that process. It doesn't have to be a long, arduous process. We're literally just going to take our time and just constantly move like this. So spud stick, as you've seen, that is going to be your most important thing. As you go and you're testing, if the spud stick goes through the ice, then it's time to back up. And you have checked up to that point so far, so it should be safe to go back. So with that said, if we find ourselves in a situation that the ice is starting to crack around us and we realize that we need to back up slowly, and you're really nervous to actually even walk any further, what we would want to do is we want to displace our weight out on the ice, such as this, and then start to work our way backwards to where we initially came from in order to keep the ice from cracking any further. Now, while you're on your belly, if the ice does crack, or even if you're standing and it does crack, one thing you don't want to let go of is your spud stick. This is why our spud stick should be taller than we are. That's going to give us area out to each side of us, that if we do break through, the ends should grab onto the ice that didn't break yet and at least give us something so we don't go underneath. So what's not going to work is pushing down on the ice and just flipping yourself out. That's not going to work because you're going to continuously crack that ice. So what you're going to want to do is begin to kick your feet. Your feet are going to come up towards the surface, and as you kick your feet, you are going to wiggle yourself onto the ice that you originally fell through. Continue kicking, continue wiggling until you get your body out of the water. At that point, I highly recommend to continue to belly crawl for a while, again displacing your weight so the ice doesn't crack, until you get to a spot in which you can start to come up and come up slowly. So remember, get your spud stick, check the ice in front of you, take your time. If you hear cracking, displace your body weight, move backwards to your starting position, and keep yourself safe. So this was Dan Wowack of Coalcracker Bushcraft. As always, check us out at coalcrackerbushcraft.com, and until the next video, stay in the woods.